Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Pitstop Fracas. I'm your host, Richard, and today we're here today with none other than Mahad. Mahad, how are we doing today, bro?
I'm absolutely knackered. You see what we do for content, lads. People, listeners, understand that the race was at 6 a.m. UK time, and we're still here to record on the same day, no sleep. Dedication. But I'm all good. How are you, Richard?
I'm not too bad, but I'm not too bad. I'd sad to take the chance of sleeping right after the race. Usually, when I wake up, I just wake up in it. But thought, you know what, it's gonna cost me later on if I don't. So that 2 hours was vital. I can't lie to you. It's very vital. Else we would not be born right now. I'm telling you now. But yeah. Also, we've got a special guest, someone who hasn't been on the pod for quite a few years now. I think last time was the iconic Brazil 2021 race. So yeah, quite a few years now. And that is none other than Tommo. Tommo, how we doing, brother?
Good boys, good. Yeah, I'm struggling to just like Mahad. I have doing the last lap stream in the morning, about 2 hours kit. But you know what? I'm not going to complain too much. We've got it good, boys. In our time zone, like we're all right. So you know what? We can live. It's nice as a little one-off. And fortunately, the race did deliver. It would have been heartbreaking if it was a stinker, right? Like you put all that effort in, and it was. Fortunately, it wasn't. So we're good. And it's a pleasure to be here, lads.
Yes, pleasure to have you back here, Tommo. So let's get straight into things. And that is, well, FP1. So FP1, well, the lack thereof FP1, you only managed to have 10 minutes. And that is because Carlos Sainz managed to go basically over grid cover or something like that. And it pretty damages our car. And he got a pretty unfair 10 place grid penalty because he had to change some components. So, Tom, I'm coming to you on this. What was your views on sort of like, because, Toto had a pretty defiant defense of a F1 in terms of, how they managed to handle the Vegas Grand Prix in terms of, street, just saying about, it's happened before with other street tracks like Baku in the past and Monaco and so on and so forth. And I think he even done a video on it as well, the way he was portraying himself also. So I know you've got some strong views on this. So I'm coming to you on this. Is what I'm basically trying to ask is there any excuse for, what happened in FP1? Or do you think it's just sort of one of those things, I guess?
Look, I wasn't too happy with Toto's attempts to brush it under the rug and be like, oh, no one in Europe's watching anyway. It doesn't matter. Who cares, right? That you losing FP1, we've had this before. Look, at the end of the day, it was a false start to the most anticipated F1 race in modern history in terms of the build-up and the hype. Arguably, most anticipated new race ever. And to lose all of FP1, look, again, there's a lot of like understanding exactly why what happened is because like there's different. So you've got different approaches to sealing drains at street circuits. It's an inherent issue. We've seen it at Monaco. We've seen it at Azerbaijan, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, of course, it shouldn't have happened. Of course, it shouldn't have happened, right? This is a brand spanking new track. It's just been relayed, right? Of course, it shouldn't have happened. It did happen. And I mean, I think the journalist describing it as a bit of a black eye, a false start, however you want to put it. It's two different ways of saying the same thing. Toto's reaction was a bit embarrassing, in my opinion. And with the Carlos Sainz penalty, it just seemed to lack a bit of common sense. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I understand there's rules in place. And, if you want to make sure when you're bringing rules into the sport that you're not leaving them open for teams to take advantage of them, and I get that, and these teams are very clever, so they will find a way to exploit loopholes. But when it's so obviously an incident where it's the buck stops with the FIA, it's their track that failed, and that caused damage to Carlos's car. It's not like you can try and make the argument of, oh well, what about if someone takes you out in the race? But that's the sport, that happens. Like, we all get on the receiving end in any sport of bad decisions and like in a sporting sense. But this was the track letting itself down and failing. And look, fortunately, it wasn't an issue going forward. But yeah, I think from a sporting point of view, it was clear and obvious that shouldn't have been a penalty. And you know what, like, yes, the argument against is that if you give Carlos fresh parts, then well, that kind of gives him an advantage. But then Ferrari have had to go to the I mean, they were lucky to get that car out for FP2. The Ferrari mechanics did a quality job to get that car ready, given the amount of damage. So you know what, if you're going to have the bad luck of that, then in my opinion, you kind of owed a little bit of good luck. And yeah, the other teams might not like it, but the decision should never sit with them as well. That's a bit mad to me. But I don't know. That's how I feel about it anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. To be honest with you, I don't understand why Toto was so defensive on that Friday, basically. It was kind of given like he's going after Domenicali's job, maybe. I don't know. There's also a bit of that, maybe.
The bag, isn't he?
Yeah, Toto, he's always got his finance brain on. He always likes to think of the bag, to be honest with you. So it didn't really surprise me they behaved like that, but didn't make it any less embarrassing. That's why, obviously, you did a video about it.
What I don't get, boys, like, because he was like, he was really like petulant about it. It was just childish, like the way he was talking about it. I don't. This felt like something even. I don't know. Toto doesn't seem to be able to handle the heat. Like Mercedes struggling, and he just loses his head. I don't get it.
Heads on Jupiter, yeah, definitely. If you look compared to like Frederick Vasseur, obviously his head was on Jupiter. When the interview starts asking, "What do you think about Vegas?" He's like, "Look, I'm not really in the mood for asking questions like this, to be honest with you." So, but yeah, Mahad, I'm gonna come to you on this. Do you think Toto is trying to go for Domenicali's job?
I think it would probably suit him more because I don't think his skill set is like team principal skill set. In, let's say, for example, Vasseur and other team principals in the past look at the kind of racing aspect their team first rather than, look at the spectacle of the sport. Toto's rant kind of came off as like, I'm a stakeholder invested in the success of Formula One and I want to be part of Formula One Liberty Media's vision of the sport rather than I'm a competitor within the sport and I need to protect the interests of my own team. Right. So he's talking about, look, this happened in other venues. That's not really, he's speaking as if he's Domenicali. That's what Domenicali's line of addressing that situation would have been, not a team principal within the sport that may have been impacted by the drain hole. Would his response be like that if Lewis Hamilton's car was destroyed by the drain cover or Russell's car? Probably not, but seems like he's under the pressure cooker. I don't know whether he's got shareholders getting on his case saying, look what's going on at the moment with Mercedes. Now it's even the pressure is going to go up even more because there's a financial penalty coming their way if they do not finish ahead of Ferrari after holding P2 for so long in the championship. And now it's very, very close for the last race. So Toto's under a little bit of pressure on the actual incident itself, on the drain cover and the track not being ready. Look, I've been here, done that. Every time they introduce a new track, there's panic. The track's not ready. I remember when it was like that for Korea. I remember when it was like that for Baku. It's never ready. Even Jeddah recently, when they still had construction sites going up and the people were taking pictures a week before saying it's not ready. They're never going to be ready because I feel like everybody leaves everything a little bit last minute, and especially with nowadays where tracks are getting like grade 1 approval without actually any running on these tracks, any supporter series, nothing like that. No little test race the year before to see if it works there. They're just slapping out, this is a grade 1 track, and then ignoring all-purpose tracks already that actually has racing on it. It's just speaks of the splash dash behavior of the FIA certifying track. And apparently they only did the checks for the track a couple hours before free practice anyway, to just say certified for safety, like it's all good. Apparently they did it like after the ceremony, the introductory ceremony when they had them on podiums and that. I'm like, why are you doing the check so late to certify it?
So again, you can't tell me that it could not have been avoided. That's the thing. Like maybe it couldn't have been avoided, but maybe it could. Maybe it could.
It could by good planning and good proper project management, but that's not the case at the moment. It's money first.
But also, one other point I wanted to mention, Mahad, right, about Toto. All this recent stuff, right, and him not thinking like a team principal and thinking like a. Do you remember after Abu Dhabi 21 when he was crowd surfing after that race because they won the constructors, right? I don't think there's another team principal who would have done that, in my opinion. Can you imagine Christian Horner if Max had been on the receiving end, crowd surfing because his team might have won the constructors, and then Max, losing the championship in the way that Lewis lost the championship in 21? I don't know. I'm just saying it.
He's a CEO, right? He's a CEO. His job is to maximize shareholders' investment. That day, he maximized shareholder investment because he brought in the maximum amount of money, prize competition, by winning the constructors, right? That's why he was celebrating.
Truth.
This, with the drain whole situation, that is tarnishing F1's image. He is an F1 stakeholder. He's saying, don't mess with my money here. That's the response right now. Because he's a CEO. He's not a team principal. This is just a facade. He's not actually a team principal. He's a CEO. He doesn't even know what's going on in the race. He was telling George. He's telling George, you could get P4. You don't even know that he's got a penalty. That's how you know you're not a team principal, because you don't even know the guy's driver's got a penalty. So let's just sweep that under the rug a little bit. On the top, in terms of the shouts to Minton, just come on screen. What was I gonna say? Like, the tracks are never ready. I think that's something that it's always going to be fueled by the fans. Like, look, what's happening? But when a car is damaged, there needs to be repercussions on the side of the people that are preparing the track. And this isn't even a situation where usually, it's a promoter, somebody else external to F1 and Liberty Media is sorting this track out. This is an F1 Liberty Media event. Yeah. So they are leading on this. I reckon there's a lot of promoters for other little tracks are there now, or there yesterday or today, saying, look, it's not that easy, is it, to run a race? Because F1 tried to do it and they had a major issue and they lost a free practice session on a brand new track, which it should be, it's noted. It's a notable situation. On Sainz was robbed. Sainz is on the back end of two of the worst penalties this season. Australia, he got a penalty, which was absolutely ridiculous penalty when he got 5 seconds in a procession for some reason, dropped him off the podium, and now this. Because he was robbed of the chance of a win today. Because for no fault of his own. But yeah, that's my rant.
No, definitely. Yeah, it's been nothing more of a shit show. And when Max is saying, of course, like, it's 99% show, 1% racing event, then you kind of do see his points in some aspects when he's saying that. But and now we've got Chris in the building. Chris, how are we doing today, brother? Fresh back from church, are we? Or fabric?
Yep, you can see by the fact I'm wearing a shirt on the YouTube, fresh out of church, no time to get changed. But I'm good, I'm blessed, so I can't complain.
Right, good. So I want to get your take quickly of obviously the problems of FP1, how they managed to handle that, especially with FP2 as well, with the fans, getting a $200 voucher to spend in the store as well, which is quite ridiculous also. But what's your takes of those two incidents, if you want?
Okay, the way I put it is the fan situation is abhorrent. It's something that shouldn't be happening. The 200 voucher isn't enough. Like, obviously, I know that they don't apologize, so they can't get sued, but you got to refund people back their money. Like, people spend a lot of money to be there and watch a session. If you can't deliver a session for them to watch, then give them back their money. Like this is completely unacceptable. Like, you're gonna have to take the L. Like, this Vegas, it's an investment. It'll take many years for them to get it all right. So that's the kind of thing that happens. In terms of the track, obviously the due diligence wasn't done correctly for reasons. Maybe it was all of the show stuff on the Wednesday that caused it, but they didn't do it, and it was a very, very, very dangerous accident that happened to Sainz. And also there were some other drivers that got inconvenienced as well. So I know Ocon had to change his chassis over. I know Zhou and Alonso had a bit of damage as well, but like Sainz was the serious one where apparently he couldn't even feel his legs afterwards. So this is like a serious incident that that we're kind of blowing over. Like, forget the damage to the car. We're talking about the driver's safety here. Like, this is like a hole in the safety cell. Like, this is the most secure part of the car, and it's damaged because the manifold flew up. So it's one of the things where all jokes aside, like making sure that the track is ready and all of that stuff is the basics. And like accidents happen and we accept that, but it's like this seemed completely avoidable. So it's one where they have to learn from that and have to, you know, first repay the fans and make sure that they organize this race better for next year. Because obviously, I feel like this year they kind of rushed to get it on the calendar this year, whereas next year logistically it'll be a lot better and a lot more, you know, well organized.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, there's definitely lessons learned in terms of handling the track and also in terms of handling how the fans, sorry, what happened to them, of course. But yeah, cool. Let's move on to qualification. So in Q1, we had both McLarens go out, unfortunately. Q2, Rebels had to take a very awkward risk with Checo. He was P6 at the time of pitting with about 2.5 minutes to go, and then he rather awkwardly got knocked out, embarrassingly, with him having, you know, not being able to do anything about that. Of course, Hamilton went out in Q2 as well. And in Q3, managed to get a Leclerc pole, with Williams getting the spaz results of qualifying 6th and 7th also. So, Mahad, I'm coming to you on this. Speak to me about Quali, and especially with McLaren's struggles in Quali this weekend.
Oh, why did you have to come to me first, bloody hell? Yeah, I'm not too happy with what McLaren did specifically because, yes, at the beginning of that session, he was what, 3rd and 4th and whatever. And it looked like, okay, we can do what Ferrari's doing and just stay on the same set of tires for 8 laps and just pump out some laps. And obviously, you want to get some heat into the tires to get your best lap out. And I think with Norris and Piastri, I think they got their fastest laps on the 5th and 6th laps on those tires. So it did work. It was the right plan based on the kind of planning on free practice and everything like that. But when you see that Leclerc's just put 7/10 on your head, even though you're 3rd and 4th, you're not safe. So you need to box for a couple tires and make sure that you get yourself over the line, because I understand the mindset, because it's the mindset of trying to be a front runner, and they've been doing that for the last couple races now, where they're trying to save tires, they're trying to just get through Q1 because they know they've got a fast car and so on. But in that scenario, those conditions and the track ramping up, and I know there was a period of time when I was watching it and I was thinking, surely they're on the pit wall, they're watching Magnussen and Hulkenberg just go 5th and 4th, 6th straight away on fresh set of tires. You should be looking at their laps and just boxing immediately, because you can see the track's ramping up, because the Haas ain't that fast in comparison to you. So yeah, error on their part to save tires, and I don't know why the save tires is not a sprint race, so I'm not really sure what they're trying to do there. And it really took the race out of their hands, out of Oscar and Lando's hands for no reason at all, and they get blamed for something that's not their fault. So absolute shit show quality for those. And then it turns out that McLaren had the 3rd fastest car anyway. So what could have been the bare minimum is to qualify where the Williams are in that scenario. So and that was achievable as well. So, but yeah, not a good show for McLaren in quality.
Chris, I'm coming to you on this. Speak to me about Hamilton's troubles in Q2. Do you think it was, compared to his teammates, of course, obviously getting into Q3, do you think it was just a case of Hamilton not getting that much out of the car, or was it just George maximising what he had underneath him?
I think this is when it's a half a second gap between the two of them, it's more of a thing of one driver's really, you know, underperformed. So like normally if it was like 2/10 or so, then it's a thing of, okay, maybe it's a bit of, you know, the person maximizing, but half a second is a driver's underperformed. I don't know particularly what went wrong with Lewis's lap, whether he failed to get the tires in or anything of the sort. So like he went out just at the wrong time. Like there's nothing that was really said that really gave us the knowledge of what went wrong. It's kind of just like he just said, I got it wrong, and then we just kept on moving. So it's a bit tricky, unfortunate for him, you know, put him on the back foot when the car had decent pace, you know. He showed today that the car had decent pace. So it's one where he got it wrong, and, you know, it's something that's crept up this year where he keeps on getting quality wrong at times. So it's like, yeah, so it's one of those things where we move and we live and we learn, but it's one where he has to just kind of reflect and go, why did that go wrong? and not why was I so far off my teammate. Not even like it was fine margins, it was a good half a second. That's way too much.
No, yeah, most definitely, I definitely agree with that. Tommo, I'm coming to you on this. Your boy Alex qualified P6. I think that's what it's saying. Yeah, qualified P6. Done a really good job. Speak to me on that, and also Leclerc as well, because he was really on it in qualifying. Because at times, the times were dropping by like 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. In the end, he only finished, I think, a couple hundredths of a second ahead of Sainz, but he was really on in quali this weekend, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think going into this weekend, the expectation was that Williams were going to be quick because they're quick in a straight line, and Ferrari, obviously, we saw how good they were in Monza. And yeah, I think for Williams, it was actually, to be fair, for Williams, it was more that they could just fire their tyres up really well. It was the same kind of in the race as well. I know Alex said post-race that he felt like he had a lot more grip than the cars around him on the restarts. And yeah, obviously for qualifying, kind of exactly what you need, right? This is why the Red Bull struggle in quali, because they can't hit their tires up on tracks where it is a bit more temperature sensitive. So, I mean, the fact that Alex was P6 and Logan was P7 as well spoke volumes. Both Williams into Q3. Obviously, both got promoted because of Carlos's penalty as well. So, I wasn't shocked like about the quali result. I was kind of somewhat expecting at least one of them to get into Q3. But also, yeah, the race kind of got away from them, which it didn't for Ferrari. And that's the thing. I think we've seen that with Ferrari a lot this year, where they qualify strong and fall back. And again, they're munching through their tires. They're doing what Haas does, but not quite as badly as Haas do it. And so, yeah, Charles was just looking unreal all weekend, wasn't he? But this is the thing, like Carlos being within like half a tenth. Like Carlos is becoming a serious driver over a lap now, because Charles is one of these drivers that's really heralded for his 1 lap pace, and rightly so. But Carlos Sainz is like, more often than not, he's like getting within a tenth, maybe 2/10 of Charles, which is keeping Charles honest. And we know Charles has got an overextension in him. But you know what? This weekend, apart from that little mistake in the race, when it came to qualifying, he wasn't even that happy with his lap. He was saying his Q2 lap was one of the best. He was saying it was his best lap in Formula One. So I'd love to see that replay. His Q2 lap. We don't even see it. His Q3 lap, he was with Kroon Chaddock. He was like, yeah, it wasn't that good there. Yeah, made a little mistake there. But that Q2 lap was apparently flames.
No, he was flying. Because I even tweeted, I was like, where's Shaw finding this time from? Because every time he'd go like top, there'd be a big gap between him and P2. So I'm thinking, is that called illegal again? I don't know. But let's get into that anyway. But yeah, let's go to the race starts. So, of course, we had an incident between Max and Shaw, an incident, as you should say. And, of course, Lewis and Alonso, they had a bit of a clash as well. And Sainz also had a bit of a spin. So, Tom, I'm coming back to you on this. Who's at fault for the Max and Charles incidents? Well, basically what I'm trying to say is, was the penalty deserved? Because he used the excuse of, I didn't have any grip. But then again, I do recall, I think it was early in the season or last season, when George had the same predicament against him, he was kind of saying that's not really excuse, mate. So the tables have kind of turned, haven't they, if you will?
Yeah, I think like post-race, Max was very much like, without outwardly saying it, I think he kind of understood the penalty. That there's one thing pushing another driver off and not giving Charles the room. There's another thing when you also go off of the track, which he did. So for me, it was clear as day. I mean, when we were doing last lap, all 4 of us immediately were like, well, he's got to give that back or he's going to get a penalty. I don't know why it took so long for the stewards. That's what was mad to me. We had to like wait through all that. Then the safety car came out after Lando's shunt, and then they were still going around behind the safety car, and they still hadn't given him like a penalty or asked him to change positions or whatever. That was a bit mad to me. But of course, that was a penalty. Of course, that wasn't a legal overtake. Yeah, all right. They're a bit less strict on the first lap. That doesn't mean it's no rules racing on the first lap, though. Like, come on, that was quite clearly a penalty. There was no doubt in my mind about that. And yeah, I mean, the stewards made the right call. So it ended up, obviously, who knows if if Red Bull had chosen to give the position, because, you know, GP said to Max, you know, we think we're all right, so we're not going to ask you to give him the position. And that's the problem with inconsistent stewarding. Ideally, from my point of view anyway, I'd rather see them just swap positions than some time penalty in the pits. Like, keep it on track, like, as much as you can. And I think I get why Red Bull didn't swap them, because I think you can get away with them sometimes because of some of the stewards at some of the Grand Prix, but it's not consistent. So I think that was the right call. Well, I mean, the call I would have made was just ask them to swap position within like a lap, because for me, you see a couple of camera angles. We see Max's camera angle, and that's all you needed to see. He went off track. He gave Charles no room. Clear as day.
No. Yeah, agreed. Sure. Mahad, do you think the penalty was too soft, given the fact, of course, in hindsight, Max won? Or do you think, you know, calls of like, I think from other drivers that instance like that, there should be more than 5 seconds, should maybe be 10 seconds, or maybe even more severe? Or do you think the 5 seconds is fine?
5-second penalties are useless in those scenarios. What's the point of giving a 5-second penalty to a rocket ship? You can't continue to give these blanket 5-second penalties out just because you can't think of anything that's suitable for the scenario. You have to be able to analyze the scenario, see what's going on, say to Max Verstappen and to Red Bull, you swap positions now because it was a safety car. Swap positions now, or you get a 10-second penalty, or you get a stop-go penalty. It needs to be like an ultimatum here. Look. Now you're giving them a choice because they know that you're going to get a 5-second penalty. So they could add that within their strategies to say, you know what, we're going to get a 5-second penalty for that. And then they can say, oh, look, if we just do maybe 7-second pit stop we do a 2.7 and a 5, that don't really harm our race like that. So just giving out these blanket 5-second statements, 5-second penalties. We saw this in Monza with George. You're just going to out-race the 5 seconds. 5 seconds is insignificant penalty. And I've seen 10-second penalties be handed out for incidences. So I don't understand why did it continue and why did it take so long? Why did it take so long? Ironically, Tommo, you was on the last pod when Max ran somebody out like that in Brazil. And they took 3 million years to make a decision on that. Just what you're doing. Just, you can see already. I don't need to see any on boards. I don't even care if he's locked up or his tires are cold or anything like that. He's left the track with him. So it's a penalty. Or tell him to swap positions back. If you don't want to have that headache, you just enforce the swap positions, or you're going to get a stop-go penalty, or you're going to get a 10 seconds. Because we can't keep... You're handing out the same penalty that you hand for track limits to people getting rammed off the road. How does that even make any sense? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, man. It's like me littering and somebody drink driving and they're getting the same penalty. How does that even make sense? These are two different scenarios that are one's quite severe and one isn't that severe. So in reality, I think the penalty was too lenient. Like a lot of people on that first corner, the tires they're not warm. So a lot of those incidences that you mentioned with Alonso just dropping it on these ones, doing a spin. And then Bottas going in the back of him, and then Perez hitting Bottas, and then you got Sainz outbreaking himself because the tires are cold and hitting and tagging Lewis Hamilton as well. And Max Verstappen, it's a valid reason that the tires are not there, so he's outbraked himself and he's pushed Leclerc off the road, but it's still a penalty. So these 5-second penalties are just a joke thing. Just make sure it harms their race, you know what I mean? And it did kind of harm his race because he cooked his tires in that first stint, but it's still not good enough. Because imagine if that was on a track that Max has a significant advantage, he would have just gone. He would have made 5 seconds in 2 laps.
Yeah, I thought he was going to do so as well, but yeah, they definitely need to review the penalty system because 5 seconds is it's way too lenient, way too lenient. Okay, so let's move on to Ferrari. So of course they did really well in qualifying, but of course Carlos Sainz had to start P12, was it? Yeah. So of course Leclerc, the Ferraris actually managed to have good race pace this weekend because usually they run a joke online and stuff. Okay, Leclerc pole means Verstappen win, and okay, we did get that this race, but it was a little bit different this time. So, Chris, I'm continuing this as our resident Ferrari fan. What did you make of Ferrari's performance as a whole today, and especially Charles's performance? And do you think if the second safety car didn't come out, do you think that was basically a slam dunk win on the cards for Charles?
So Ferrari delivered a great race car this weekend. They Leclerc was in his flow. Tire management was on job. Like they were better on tires than Red Bull, better on tires than anyone else. They were planning to do a one stop. They did a one stop in the end, and it worked out pretty well. He was comfortably ahead of Max after his first stop, and everything was looking good. You know, they were managing all the graining and stuff really well. So it was a case of he was literally slowing his pace down to get through the little graining phase. And then once the pace was done, he was back on the pace again, which is why, like, when Verstappen overtook him, he was just stuck behind, like a second or two behind, and then suddenly he caught up again. So this was a real, like, masterclass from Ferrari. And it's just a bit of bad luck that, you know, George and Verstappen came together that really cost them the win, because it's one where obviously they could have pitted again if they had fresh tires, but it's a case of the advantage that they had was long gone, and that their plan to do the one stop had been nullified, because obviously we all knew that Red Bull needed to stop again. Like everyone needs to stop twice. Ferrari were going for the one stop. They understood that this was their plan, and it's just that the safety car came at the worst possible time for them, which, you know, bunched the group back up together, had him fighting with Perez and all of that and the sorts, just kind of, you know, wasting your tires, wasting performance, instead of just managing his pace the entire race. But Ferrari definitely came in here looking very strong from the offset, and, you know, it was a masterful performance from Leclerc. Like, apart from that one little error against Checo, he was just supreme this weekend, and one of the best drivers of the weekend for sure.
No, yeah, agreed. You did really well this weekend, to be honest with you. So, Tom, I'm gonna come to you on this one. Do you think, in terms of Leclerc, you know, does this weekend prove that all he needs is the right car in order to compete, or do you think there's maybe, you know, especially with the little mistake that he did where Checo passed him later on in the race, maybe proves that there's a bit more to it than him just having the right car on a Sunday?
I think that Charles has done. He's done more than enough since. I mean, even you could argue when he was in the Sauber, but since he jumped into that Ferrari in 2019, like he's done more than enough to prove that he can go toe to toe with Max Verstappen and Lewis and all of the best drivers in F1 right now. And look, there's a difference between going toe to toe and beating and being, you know, for example, like when Michael Schumacher was, you know, dominating F1, you had Raikkonen, you had Montoya, you had these guys who could take it to Michael. They weren't better than Michael over the course of their careers, but they could take it and fight with him. And I think Leclerc's, in terms of raw talent, I think he's the closest to Max on the grid for me. So I think it's, look, he's got a, we all know he's got an incident in him. How much of that is him having to drive or feeling like he has to drive at 100% in a team like Ferrari, where there's so much, you know, there's so much that goes on in the background that we don't hear and we don't know and we don't see. And we'll never fully understand what that pressure is like and how that manifests itself and how that affects someone's ability to turn a wheel, right? But Charles Leclerc is a serious driver, and I think if Ferrari can give him a package that is as competitive across a full season as it was this race and at Monza, then of course he can take it to Max and give him something to think about. And yeah, obviously he had that lockup, didn't he? Which, you know, it's a product of pushing at 100%. He's got 2 Red Bulls surrounding him. That's where, you know, if Sainz doesn't get that penalty and he's up there, maybe he plays a factor and they can use, you know, he had Max dropping back to give Checo toe, for crying out loud. Still got the move done. So yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that. At the end of the day, he's fighting, you know, 2 Red Bulls on his own. Checo's not been up there enough this year to do this, and hence why he only just converted P2 fully. But Yeah, Charles, a serious driver, and it would be foolish to underestimate him going forward and just label him as Le Crash or whatever.
Feel like you're shading me there, Tommo, but I'll run with it. That's fine. But no, yeah, cool. Mahad, I'm gonna come to you on this. I'm going to talk about Red Bull. Of course, Max got another win. Surprise, surprise. But he had to work for it today, which is, not really the common thing for him this season, but a bit refreshing. Also, Checo, he, for the second race weekend in a row, managed to bottle a position on the final lap. He said this is for P2. So, Mahad, what did you think of Red Bull's performance today, and especially Checo's? Do you think Checo actually did well today, or do you think, even though he has scored P2 in the championship, do you think maybe, he kind of showed today, maybe perhaps Red Bull probably better off getting an upgrade, if not next year or the year after?
I personally thought Checo was really good. You have to remember where he started, and he managed to get himself into contention in the race to even be there in the first place. I think people look at it in the wrong prism because this guy is not better than Charles Leclerc. So why would you think he's going to be better than Charles Leclerc in that type of scenario when, for once, Ferrari have a competitive car in that scenario with Red Bull? I don't think Red Bull's performance is their maximum performance that week, and I think they took a little bit of a step back, and maybe the cold temperatures played a part. Maybe it's just not that type of track for them. But we're looking at a scenario today where if the safety car doesn't come, I think Leclerc wins the race. So I really believe that Ferrari had a car that could go toe-to-toe with them. And if they did have a car that goes toe-to-toe with them, why on earth would you think Perez could beat Leclerc? Leclerc's better than Perez. So it's one of those scenarios where, yes, he could have parked the car in the apex and kind of defended that position. He's known for defending. It was quite strange that he did that. But Leclerc just wanted it more. And there you go. Bob's your uncle there. I think everything that Perez has been asked to do, he finished P2 in the championship. They've got 1-2 in the championship. So he's done what he's required. His contract's required. Do they need an upgrade? Do they even know that the other teams are going to catch up with them? If they do, then they'll make a decision to get rid of Sergio Perez. But right now, I think they're quite comfy. Max, I think this is just, I've said this many a time. You're not in a Red Bull in 2023. You're not beating Max Verstappen on pure pace. Singapore's an outlier. Any other race, if you're not in another Red Bull, you could try your best. You could do a 10 out. Leclerc did a 10 out of 10 performance. Yeah. You're not beating this guy in that car this year. We've seen people do stellar performances. We've seen Hamilton in Qatar. We've seen Norris on many occasions. We saw Piastri. You can't beat this guy in this car. Even if he's having a stinker of a day, he's still going to win. All it changes, when he has a stinker, it goes from 30-second margin to maybe a 4-second margin, 5-second margin. That's how much of a advantage he's got at this moment in time. So, yeah, I think any other day, I think Red Bull had to their own standards, they weren't all there, but they managed to eke it out. Look, Max Verstappen had a 5-second penalty, he had a broken wing, and he still bloody won the race. So,
he was still lapping 1.5 tenths quicker than Sergio.
So there you go. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know. One thing I didn't understand is why Sergio went for the high downforce package. We went for a different wing to Max before Quali, and I'm not sure why he did that because that gave him a disadvantage on the straights. He wasn't fast. He was nowhere near the same speed on the straight as Max Verstappen or Leclerc because he went with that different wing. Yeah, he was quicker in the corners and stuff like that, but if he went with the same wing as Max, maybe he would have stood a better chance. It was a bit of a weird decision. I think he should just copy whatever Max is doing setup-wise. But apart from that, I think it was good performance. I think, yeah, they let a 1-2 slip, but at this point in time, Red Bull don't really care. They're just celebrating at the moment. They just wanted to have a night out in Vegas. They're going to go to AD, they're going to party in AD, and then they're going to come back next season. So any analyzing of their performance kind of has to be capped because they're really on holiday at the moment. It's like when you hand in your notice, you're chilling. You don't really need to work that hard, but they're still getting wins on a canter. So Leclerc, fantastic performance, by the way. Like, Ferrari couldn't do as much more in that scenario, and they still couldn't win. That kind of just shows what rare Red Bull's at performance-wise.
Yeah, for sure. This is, me put a robot in a car like that, it's going to be dead hard to stop him. And, that's clear again today. A broken wing and a 5-second penalty, and he still won. So, yeah, Chris, I'm coming to you on this. I know you're not the biggest fan of Sergio Perez, but what did you make of his performance today? And where would you rank Max's win today in terms of his wins over the season? Was that one of his more better ones, or maybe it wasn't really one of his more better ones, if you will?
In terms of Perez, it was a good performance. He got on the podium. Ferrari were close, so it wasn't a case of when Red Bull are like a light year away ahead of everyone else, and then he's struggling in fourth place while Verstappen is 30 seconds ahead. Verstappen wasn't that far ahead, and circumstances in Quali put him behind. He wasn't like he was far off in Quali. It was just the timings was all off, so he got caught out. So it wasn't his fault. It was a case of the team messed it up, and in the race, he drove a good race. And in reference to Mahad's point about the wings, it's a confidence thing. So obviously, Verstappen's happier with the car sliding around and all of that, and he trusts that he won't smash it into the wall, whereas Perez doesn't have that same ability. He doesn't have the same abilities as Max. So it's one where he has to have a bit more wing just to make sure that he doesn't crash into the wall and bin it. In regards to Max's wins this season, he's won too many races this season, and to be honest, I don't think this is that high of one of his race wins, because it's like it was a bit more messy and scrappy. So let's say, for example, like a Zandvoort or Miami, those were like, oh my goodness, he's really driving, he's really doing something. Whereas this felt a bit more, the first corner incident, the scrap with George, the kind of like I think it seemed good because of the battle with Leclerc. So it's like on pure entertainment and spectacle side, it's one of the better wins, but I wouldn't say it's one of his best performances. So like, let's say in Coulter where he was managing brake problems and he still went out and won. That's more impressive to me than necessarily this weekend, where it was good, but nothing particularly special. It's more just, everything is just working in his favor. He just has the magic touch where no matter what happens, he's able to be at the front.
No, yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I don't even know why I asked you a question like, you're going to remember all of Max's wins, even though he's won everyone apart from like 3 races. But yeah, I just thought stab in the dark.
Win 3 races. It's only 3 races, and one of them was because of the Singapore stinker. We had Jeddah where he was out in Q1 through the team's fault and ended up second, and then we have Baku where Perez just drove the best race of his career. And then Max Verstappen said, I'm not doing this ever again, and went up another level. So it's a case of, I can't really rank the wins the same. Actually, you know what? Maybe Austria's up there as well because he didn't get any track limits, I think. Where everyone was getting track limits, he kept it clean and he was still just in another postcode. So that just shows a person who's on a different world.
Yeah, no.
I think Suzuka. I think Suzuka's his best win.
Yeah,
that Suzuka Quali lap was mental, wasn't it?
I think he was just on it the whole weekend. He was just an alien. I don't know what was going on. He was moving like, when you play F1 2023 and it's just AI 100, 150. That's what he was doing that weekend. You can't beat this guy, man. But hopefully next year it's a bit closer. You know what I mean? I just need that little bit of a, you can't have perfect car and perfect driving like, all in one go. Something's got to end.
Yeah, I mean, but it looks like we have that now, like.
But we've done it before. We've done perfect team, not perfect. I mean, perfect car, perfect driver before. It happens every couple of years. It's just that the team is also nearly perfect, and then all of the rivals have bozo genes, so they just keep on getting things wrong whenever they slip up a little bit.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a big part of it, isn't it? Because we've not had like a consistent second quickest team / car. Like that's why Red Bull never got a 1-2 when Vettel was dominating, even in like 2013, because it was always Alonso in the Ferrari who was there. Whereas this year, like Mercedes are still second in the constructors, but rarely are they the second quickest car. They're like consistently third, sometimes second, sometimes fourth. But like you've got McLaren started nowhere, now somewhere, but then still having random weekends where they're nowhere. Aston Martin, good, bad, good again. Like Ferrari, fuck those. Like, that lack of a consistent second best, I think, is part of that. The reason for that as well.
So basically, everyone's on vibes then, is what you're telling me, apart from Red Bull. Everyone's just on putting everything on black and Vegas and just
basically.
Yeah, agreed.
We're standing on business, isn't it? They're standing on business. Like they pulled up, said we're standing on business, and then everyone else is just vibing.
True. I agree.
No, you know what pisses me off? Every time McLaren gets close, that's when Verstappen has the drive of his life. Pissing me off. But when he has a stinker, it's Ferrari. Like, I don't understand that, but I don't. Maybe it's correlated because when Red Bull have a stinker, McLaren don't have a good car because they're kind of following the same concept. You know what I mean? But it's pissing me off. Like, let him just have one stinker, one game, one race, and Oscar and Lando can do something. But he's not even doing that. And then when he did have it, bloody signs, man. I'm sick of it.
Hey, you should have kept all the signs, man. Hey, things could have been different. You know what I mean? But, hey, listen, it's life, innit? Right, let's move on to Mercedes. So, Mercedes, they managed to qualify P4 and P11, but ended up finishing P7 and P8. So, Tom, I'm going to come to you on this. What is going on with Mercedes-Benz AMG Petronas?
What I mean, look, their cars like this car's going to look nothing like what it looks like now next year. Like we know that it's a Frankenstein car. They're doing what they can. I think Lewis he's struggling in qualifying because he doesn't. Qualifying punishes a lack of ultimate confidence. Hence why Max is just destroying Checo in qualifying so badly. And same, Albon Sargent and all the other very skewed driver, driver like Quali pairings. I think clearly Lewis is the better driver, but he's not got that ultimate confidence in the car. It's just getting to the end of the year. I mean, them getting P2 in the constructors, I don't think that's a massive deal to these big. Ferrari and Mercedes. They've got an extra $12 million is not going to change their, the practicality of their. Title going forward. If anything, the 5% ATR buff might actually be preferential for finishing P3. So, they've got a lot of catching up to do. They don't, it's like McLaren seem to be even Aston Martin, seem to have both have cars that are already on this path. And we keep talking about the Red Bull path. Well, like they seem to already be there. So they're already learning or already developing that path. Mercedes are going to have to change loads. Ferrari are saying their car's going to look very different next year as well. You know what? The main thing for me right now with Mercedes though is like George Russell, man. He's making far too many mistakes. He's making a lot of mistakes. Look at Singapore. Drops that big points lost. This weekend he said it himself. He should have been on the podium, and he just drove into the side of Max and didn't even look. I don't know. I think George is. He's the one who was signed, and clearly, he's creating this issue of being so close to Lewis, which I think is a problem, but he's close in one lap pace. But, if you're going to trust one of them to deliver a championship and not make mistakes at the pivotal moments, then you're not going to be banking on George Russell. And if he holds on to that P4, they're comfortably clear of Ferrari going into this final weekend. But he shagged it into the side of Max. So a bit concerning about Russell. I don't know. I feel like this is happening a little bit too often now. Is it just Max had his crashed up an era. The best have their moments, and I think George's time will come because there's no doubt he's got that raw pace, which I think is the hardest thing to teach. And I think it's just building this more complete racing driver that he still quite clearly to me is not. That's Mercedes kind of one of their biggest issues, I think, right now.
Oh, yeah, agreed. Chris, I'm going to come to you on this one to piggyback off what Tom just said in terms of Russell. Is Russell making too many mistakes this season? And also, what do you think of his performance, of course, this weekend? Of course, with the 5-second penalty and whatnot.
This weekend is a summary of George Russell's season where there is good pace, an incident, and a terrible result at the end. Where last year he was very consistent and wasn't really pushing the boat. This year he's gone out there and said, I'm going to roll the dice, especially because they're not in a position to win. When you're not in a position to win, I'm going to roll the dice to get the best result possible. And he keeps on coming up short. Like, he's in the red in terms of, he went to Vegas and casino and lost 10 grand. And that's what he's done this week. And it's happened again where qualifying, he's done a great job, starting the race in third place. Was right there with Max and Leclerc. Like, it wasn't like 10 seconds off. He was like 2 seconds off or whatever. Ends up ahead because of the penalty, and then just has a bit of a bozo moment where he's not really paying attention because he's just like, well, he's not going to overtake me here. He's going to go at the next corner, and then just turns in on him and, causes an incident, which is a just penalty. But it kind of sums up his season where it's like you're so close to glory, but you keep on messing things up. But it's a thing of he needs to adjust the mentality a little bit and, play the percentages a bit more. But it's one where it shouldn't be a concern because it's one where I think he's aware and I think he just wants the season to end. I think he's the one driver who wants the season to be like, let's get this over and done with and, we'll come back next year because it's not been good. And it's one where even if you drive better, the results will still remain the same. It's like, he's ended up behind his teammate in this race. And it's one where not at one point in this race was Lewis Hamilton actually ahead of him on track. And you've ended up behind your teammate. So it's like, it's not a good look. And it's one where it's like, this doesn't make sense on a normal day. But alas, you live and you learn, and he needs to just buck up his idea and just, unplug a little bit and, reset.
Okay. Let's move on to Aston Martin. So Aston Martin, they managed to qualify P10 and P14, finish with Stroll finishing P5 and P9. So Mahad, I'm coming to you on this. You're someone with a lot of stock in Sir Lancelot. He managed to make up it. Yeah. You think I don't remember? Yeah. You think I don't remember the prop of years gone by? You didn't denounce that stock. So, yeah, don't deny it now. So,
McLaren stock. I don't own anything else.
Okay, you'd say that to your shareholders. All right, sit on. But no, Lance Stroll, has he turned a bit of a corner? Because he qualified. What was it? P14. He managed to make up 10 places at the start. Remarkably, okay, some of that is incident tax and whatnot, but he managed to finish steady impressive P5. So, is this with 2 impressive weekends back to back? Is this a turn of a corner for Lance Stroll, or is it just a little paper clutch?
So, Lance has been slandered, and quite rightly, this season for being just slow as shit, especially in quali.
Yes.
And that has coincided a little bit with the downturn of the car. Even though when the car was good and Alonso was getting podiums at the beginning of the season, he was nowhere to be seen bar the first 2 races. I think he had to have some adjusting to get used to the car, and now it's a different animal to what it was last year as well. And we kind of see now that since the car's taken a little bit of an upturn now, he's going along with that upturn, so he's kind of understanding what he needs to do. I've seen many a driver from the switch of the older cars to these ground effect cars having that issue with the transition. And I feel like he's one of those drivers that's kind of struggled to deal with these ground effect cars and getting his head around it. But I think slowly but surely he's kind of understanding. And yeah, today was a good performance. Kind of really showed the pace of the car. Really outperformed Alonso in this race, just race pace wise, and just really just showed, look, I have got it. But the thing is with Lance, he's in that weird zone with drivers where people only remember the bad times and won't recognize the good times or acknowledge it. This will be far along in the memory, at the beginning of next season. And I think right now, just in the public perception, is a little too late right now. He just needs to just be quite quiet under the radar, just put these performances in and just look competitive to kind of grow that stock back. Because right now it's in the red still. Like people will just be like, oh, well, Stroll did that, but nobody's really paying attention, you know? And I feel like he just needs to build his rep back and just continue to put in these good performances. But yeah, great. He got locked out Q1, right? So he still needs to work on that, because that's not good. Maybe he's just recovering to a position they should be at in the first place. But yeah, good performance by Lance.
No, yeah. I've been one who's doing very critical of Lance this season, rightfully so. But no, I think this is arguably maybe his best performance of the season. But Tom, I'm coming to you on this. Do you think this is? I mean, Stroll was worthy of, possibly being driver of the day today. I know we didn't actually get it, but performance-wise, you think, was it a stellar enough performance to arguably, yeah?
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's hard to know where Aston Martin's pace was because, Fernando was facing the wrong direction at the start. He obviously he had a stinker off the line, and then that puts him, obviously Lance is one of the beneficiaries, and he moves up and drives a race that we have seen him drive. He's been on the grid since 2017, right? So he's delivered this kind of drive before, where he just comes in and just does the job and delivers Bahrain, first race of this year, was one of his strongest drives as well. He started the season strong. Even Saudi, before the car let him down, he was doing well. So Lance feels like he's one of those kind of confidence drivers, and I don't know, maybe after that whole that stuff with his trainer, I feel like I don't know if you guys would agree, but like in all his interviews now, he's incredibly, like, he was never usually that chatty, but like I feel like the Lance, when F1 do the kind of grill the grid stuff at the start, and that's all filmed, I think, at the first race of the season. And he's actually quite kind of chatty, and you see a side of Lance, you're like, oh, yeah, he's got a bit about him. He's good character. And actually, it feels like in these interviews, he's very, very very concise and very like, whether he has a good race or a bad race, even having a good race this weekend, he was very kind of on it. And maybe that's indicative of a different approach to get more out of just to shift focus. I don't know, because everything's there. He's still pretty much the same age as Lando. He's like 24. He's got all this experience in Formula One. He's got a guaranteed seat, for want of a better term. And it's like the ingredients should all be there. And he's had success in junior formulas, which obviously, yes, the money does help arguably exponentially when you're coming through karts and all that, because you can get new power units all the time and new tires, blah, blah, blah. He's a driver that, so often there's just periods of barren, just absolute, like, doesn't look like he deserves to be in the sport. And then he will deliver these performances every now and then. Turkey, when he put it on pole in the wet, which was just in those conditions, that's crazy. And like the amount of times he's been on the podium, like way more than Nico Hulkenberg's ever managed. And look, I'd like to, he for his whole career, he's obviously been understandably and rightfully kind of, it's acknowledged that obviously, having a billionaire dad has afforded him a lot of opportunities and chances that other drivers wouldn't have. And also, if any of us were in that situation, and my parent was a billionaire and offered me the chance to race karts and fly around the world, and I'm taking it, of course I am. But I think that it's that real, like Mahad, you said earlier about like Charles wanted that P2 more than Checo. It felt like that in that moment. And like for Lance to really have that, can he actually get that? Like maybe that's what he's trying to do and change his approach, because again, everything's there. There's no excuse for him to not have developed significantly since he joined in 2017. And it's races like today that make you think, oh yeah, maybe he has got it. And then he'll just stink up the place for the next 3 races. He's a frustrating driver to watch, Lance, because there's clearly a lot of unrealized potential there. But who knows really why he's not been able to realize it.
You know what? I think one thing that's worried me about this season more than any is that he's just been really, really slow. Because before, I could take the bozo gene. As long as you're quick, and if you crash into a couple of people or you have you drop it or whatever, that's fine with me. As long as you're quick. This season, there was a long period of time where he was just slow in comparison to Alonso. We're talking maybe 8 tenths. Nearly a second.
Fernando battered his confidence because he almost matched Seb last year in qualifying head-to-head. Seb was quicker, but not by much. And Fernando just came in and battered his confidence. And now he's a confidence driver, I think, Lance.
Yeah, he's definitely a confidence driver, to be fair. But he is starting to get into a groove now. But hopefully he can he can build on this. He can go into AD and then go into this next season. But we'll have to just wait and see. To be honest with you, just have to wait and see. So I'm gonna move on to now the rest of the grid. This is usually when I open the floor up to any of the cast members if they want to slander or berate or big up anyone who's on the grid as well. But Chris, I'm gonna come to you on this. The perfect time. Alpine, Ocon, P4. He collaborated with Palace, and look what happens. Look what happens. The fire Palace track, and look what happens, bro. P4. I think Alpine. No, it's not Alpine's best result of the season line because they got podiums this season, but one of their best results of the season. Talk to me. How was Ocon's performance today? And Gasly's as well.
I think both of them drove really well this weekend. I think qualifying for Ocon was like a bit of a false image because of his incident with Max. So it was a bit of a false image. The Alpine generally looked pretty decent this weekend. Gasly drove a great race but had the vanity issues, whether it was battery or just he cooked the tires. One of the two, a combination of both. Ocon just drove a really, really good race. And although it looks like he didn't listen to team orders, I'm not sure because obviously we don't get the actual timings of when the radio messages are sent. But he drove a really good race, had great pace. Did that thing he does where he kind of ghosts up the grid where, he just ends up like P8 or something from P16 and no one knows why and no one's seen any overtakes, but he made it work. He's one of the other drivers who did the one stop and actually made it work. So it's a very, very good drive for him and finally a bit of luck on his side because, some of the races this season have been a bit very unlucky for him and it kind of skews things a little bit. So it's one where the Alpine drivers are actually very, very closely matched and run reliability and issues of skewing things one way or another, and it's not really making sense. So now they're a lot closer again, and it's a bit more balanced than where it was beforehand, where Gasly was like comfortably ahead, and it was like it's not matching what I've been seeing, but it's a good performance for him, and I'm happy, and he seems really happy that he's had a bit of luck on his side for once. They gave him some drip, and it turned out to be good. So hopefully next weekend he's wearing the same jacket again. Do the Mahomes, don't wash it, just wear it again.
Did you manage to cop the jacket, Chris, or the bucket hat if they had one?
No, I'm broke, man. I spend too much money on other stuff. I'm broke. I'm gonna have to see that on StockX.
It all sold out in like 10 minutes. I had a look on Palace's website. I missed the drop and I looked like the 10 past 11 and almost all of it had sold out. So yeah, StockX, that's a StockX job, definitely.
Yeah, definitely have to be a StockX job. Mahad, did you cop any? I know you're into that.
I hate Alpine. Why would I buy Why would I buy Alpine again? Why would I buy mediocrity? I like the actual gear itself, but no.
I preferred Ocon's jacket to Gasly's jacket this weekend. The one with the pink through the middle with Ocon had on. I preferred that one.
Yeah, definitely.
These lot are getting their spot. They're getting in their sponsor back, Alpine, isn't they?
That's it, man.
How much celebs were in their garage? They know what they did.
But they got rid of Otmar, and they started dripping up, looking nice, Next thing they see the water spots is gonna be gone. It's like it's a new day at Alpine, man.
I'm waiting for the beef between Andretti and Alpine because I know Otmar's going to be the team principal. It's going to be hilarious. I'm waiting. That heel turn.
I hope
It's
Alpine
a-
too. I like Alpine. I like that. I like the history of the team. I like the old Benetton, the old Lotus, the old classic Fernando Renault. I want that team to do well, but they're just painful, aren't they?
No, yeah. Mahad, talk to me about Oscar Piastri. Got fastest lap. And he looked quite good, to be fair, today. If you even watched the race, you said you only tuned in halfway through, didn't
I
you?
watched it. I watched it back. I'm a professional F1 content creator. I missed the race at the beginning. I watched it back. I turned it on when Russell crashed into Max. And anybody that thinks that that's not Russell's fault, you're gonna have to reevaluate how you watch racing because you don't turn into just the apex like nobody's there. That's a very Lance Stroll type of move from Russell. You know that, Chris.
Look, look. You know me. I'm very much, I'm his biggest defender, but I hold him accountable. That was completely his fault. Now, if it ruined Max's race, I would have called him a genius and said
it won Max's race.
It won the race, so he's the bozo of the week.
So yeah, Oscar's fantastic. Like I can't do this shit with this strategies. 2 races, Brazil. And now this. I think the last time I spoke to you, Tommo, on McLaren Fan TV, we're talking about tire quality and putting the right tires on all that kind of stuff and getting the time right.
Indeed, we were.
Oscar Piastri was the 3rd fastest guy on track. So God knows what Norris and Piastri could have done if they qualified in the top 10. We could have maybe been in that conversation with Leclerc and Perez and Max Verstappen. So
missed opportunity, definitely.
Missed opportunity again on a track that was supposedly weaker. So Oscar was absolutely rapid. Kind of got absolutely. I know Leclerc got shagged by the safety car, but so did Oscar Piastri as well. And obviously the contact with Lewis Hamilton having to pit as well on there as well. So and then having to pit because he did 2 sets of hards instead of starting on mediums, which is probably another problem with the team as well. Should have started on mediums like everybody else. But alas, stellar drive, gained a lot of time after pitting, got the fastest lap. It's just another what could have been. But yeah, Oscar, great driver. Oscar, bare highlights. I'm waiting for the comp. How much people he overtook? He was taking the piss with these overtakes, especially that one on Gasly. Nice.
Oh, that was good. That was very good.
But yeah, Oscar, fantastic drive.
Yeah, for sure. Tom, is there anyone you want to speak about on the grid? Maybe Alex. Surprisingly, I would have thought he would have gotten to the points today, but he managed to finish P12 as Sargent from P16. So quite disappointing for him today.
Yeah, I mean, victims, both of them, of him and Logan, of the graining, and that seemed to hit a lot of people. That seems to explain why Gasly was so far behind Ocon. Actually, this one thing I've been wondering, because I know post-race Nico Hulkenberg was saying that, purposefully driving to manage to stop the tyres graining, because Ocon got no graining, Gasly got graining, and Gasly stopped twice. Ocon stopped once. So clearly there was what I'm trying to understand is like how much of the responsibility of that is on the team versus the driver. Because say, for example, Gasly at the start, he was going quick and like catching up to George but were Alpine gassing him up too much at the start? So then he ended up graining his tires, whereas Ocon, they drove a much more sensible race and he was able to bring it through and finish P4. But yeah, the Williams both kind of fell to that, but they both fell kind of equally almost at the same time. Sargent a little bit before Alex, because up to a point he was running within a second of Alex for quite a bit of the race, which is good to see from kind of his point of view. So yeah, I just think that I think that kind of caught out a lot of teams, but not even just teams. That's the thing, different drivers on the same team. But yeah, I think that Williams, there was a lot of expectation going into it. It's one thing having a quick quali car, having a quick race car, because we don't get graining every race as a big talking point and a big, that explained a massive deficit between Ocon and Gasly in the end. So the fact that no one else picked up constructors in that fight for 7th and the AlphaTauris stunk, by the way. Wow, fucking hell. They were terrible, weren't they? They were nowhere. Sonoda had to retire with a gearbox issue. I think Daniel caught damage as well, didn't he? Early doors.
Alfa
Yeah, they
Romeo
were. I mean,
reek as
remember,
well.
but Yuki was on the softs. Do you remember on the restart? Yuki was on the softs, and he was getting he was getting overtaken by everyone. You're like, you're on the softs. That's meant to be the good tire. Like they just nowhere.
I'm telling you now. I'm telling you,
slander.
setting up the car, they're not good. They're not good. When it comes to different types of tracks, they're not particularly strong in that area. Alfa Romeo reek. I can see you, Alfa Romeo. Every week I can see you. What's going on over there? This is a future factory outfit. This is not looking good.
Knees are wobbling. They're not good. They're not happy.
I will give Valtteri Bottas a bly because he was a part of the first corner incident that gave him damage. Now, Zhou, I don't know. That's up to Audi, them lot to decide what happened there. But in terms of Bottas, he actually had damage, so we can forgive his fall back from a good quali position.
From 8th, he was 8th, isn't it? Yeah.
Joe's been and Joe's not been good recently, is he? I've been disappointed with Joe. It's this kind of second half of the year. Yeah,
he's been disappointing. Okay, let's move on to.
Wait. One last thing about the teams. Pass Hulkenberg, yeah. He was out here trashing the upgrades, talking about I want the old car back, and he got packed in by Kevin Magnussen. I saw you, bro. I saw you. You were doing all that talk, and you end up behind your teammate. Yeah, you can't be disrespecting your mechanics engineers like that and be behind your teammate. He has to win out in AD, otherwise it's very, very spooky because it's like you're supposed to be the lead, like experienced driver, kind of making these things work in terms of setup and stuff. So it's like, bro, are you leading the team in the right direction if you're behind your teammate who's using the upgrades or not? So it's one thing saying all this talk and we're all getting on to Haas about it, but if you finish behind your teammate in quali and then you didn't finish the race, I don't know what happened, but it's one thing where like we can see these things and we're not just going to let you get away with just talking the talk. I know you wanted to join Alfa Romeo and Gunter said no and activated the clause in your contract saying you're here, but like we could see this. We could see this performance out here.
No, yeah, for sure. Okay, last but not least, let's move on to the Las Vegas spectacle. So, of course, we had the Las Vegas Spear. Of course, there's a lot of celebs there. It was steady Vegas, steady over the top and whatnot. So, I'd like to just open the floor up basically to anyone who wants to speak on the whole spectacle thing, because obviously Max Verstappen has been very vocal to say, he's not a big fan of it. People have criticized him to say, well, you're the world champion, you should be able to just take on the chin, just eat that. I know the people have been like, yeah, I agree with Max. Yeah, that's been a bit over the top sort of thing. So kind of just want to open the floor to anyone who, on their opinions on the spectacle, was it a bit too over the top? Do you think it was just about right? Do you think the drivers just have to get on with it and suck it up? Or any other opinions people may have on it in total?
I've got a point, right? So Monaco. This is the American Monaco. Like what? So it's not like F1 is just full of these like classic circuits all around the world, like Monza and Silverstone. Like we have Monaco, where we race around this little principality that is just full of the wealthiest people in the world, and all the F1 drivers live there. And everyone who's Max being like, oh, people just come to get like shit faced and party. What are the people doing on the yachts in Monaco when Kimi like shunted it and went back to his yacht, right? And he sat there and had a drink. Like, if we could accept Monaco, of course I could accept Vegas. Like, and if we're going to go to Vegas, you have it down the strip. Of course you do, because that's what makes Vegas, not a car park. So I ain't got a problem with it at all. Do I find it a bit cringe? Well, yeah, of course, because I'm not built that way. I'm not American. I'm not like, I know a lot of Americans find it a bit cringe, but at the end of the day, if you're going to go to Vegas and make a big song or dance of it, I ain't got a problem with that at all. And again, yes, we do have these more pure like racetracks, but also we have Monaco, and we've had Monaco, and Max saying that that's Premier League and Vegas is National League. Like, well, no, the only difference is the history. That's the only difference. They are both as flamboyant, maybe in slight different ways, but they're both like, there's both a lot of bullshit attached to both of them that isn't to do with the racing, but we accept it with Monaco because of the history, but then we can't accept it with Vegas. I'm just like, nah, like if it was British touring cars going to Vegas, then maybe I'd be a bit like, hang on, that doesn't really seem to fit with the series. But this is Formula One. This is a sport started in the 50s by a bunch of far too wealthy, old, rich blokes who just wanted to fucking just show off. And now it's turned into this high performance sport with these, athletes coming through and doing mad stuff. But yeah, let's not pretend that this sport, like, we have Monaco and we've had Monaco forever. So no, I'm fine with it. I think in time it will be accepted just like Monaco.
Chris, Mahad, do you have any thoughts?
One thing I will add is I think a lot of the comments are coming from people who are at home. Like, this spectacle stuff, it's not for us. It's for the people who spent their money and went over there. So like seeing the drivers wave and all of that. It's that kind of stuff. It's not for us. It's for the people out there. And it became a big show and a big event. Like, that's why the boxing tried to get involved and had a fight on the Thursday. I know Leclerc was there before practice. He was watching it and then ran over to practice. We had all these parties, all these events. Like Tommo referenced in Monaco, there used to be this fashion pageant thing that they had all the rookie drivers doing in Monaco on the Thursday or the Friday. So it's one of those things where drivers have been doing this since forever. So complaining about it doesn't make any sense. It's just a little bit more to your commitment and work that you have to do. But it's like, it's a thing of, it didn't take away from the real flow of the weekend per se, when on Friday you guys were on job doing practice, and then Saturday quali, Sunday race. There wasn't too many additional activities then. It was all beforehand or all afterwards where they added a bit more of, let's make this all Vegas and all special. And I think part of it is the fact that Liberty Media and F1 want to change the way the sport is viewed by making stuff a lot more of an event. Like Silverstone, there's a whole concert. We're at Bahrain, there was a concert on this fan stage area bit. There's a lot more going on into these races where it's not just the cars and the racing itself. There's a lot more. And Max saying, people wanting it to be like, it's not just a piss off. Zandvoort is literally a race to celebrate Max Verstappen. He's the draw. They're all there to drink and celebrate his success. So I don't understand this whole thing of race and show when Zandvoort is a show. Like, it's a very small track. They're going to struggle to fit in more cars in there. So it's a case of, this has always been F1. It's always been part of the show. They've always made it show businessy, and it's it's a beauty pageant at times, and it's just part of the history of the sport.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Basically, I think because Vegas proved that you can have a good race there, in my opinion. I think eventually it's just going to be the case of the drivers and people. They're just going to get over it, because the main thing Monaco people's complaints are that the race is not good, but with Vegas you're getting a race that's actually good. So if you get more of that, then eventually people aren't going to care about the performatives and magicians and so many slabs and X amount of bullshit that comes with it. You'll just take the bullshit that comes with it anyway. So yeah, I think people just got to eat that up, to be honest. But yeah, let's move on to driver of the day. Mahad, who's your driver of the day?
Charles Leclerc. I think he drove at 100%. And I got robbed out of a win, but there we go. So yeah, Charles Leclerc. I don't think he did anything wrong. The guy was in quali and the race. He was doing the madness, man. What did he do in Q2? I think he did like 7 tenths faster than everybody else.
You did.
Like,
yep.
The guy was on stuff. So couldn't do much more. Did a last minute lunge on Perez. Got his P2. Didn't finish that much far behind Max. So job well done. In my eyes, whoever finishes Q2 wins the race in the Max Verstappen era right now. So he did a good job, honestly. Like, As long as you finish Q2 and you're close to max, you should get driver of the day.
Cool. Tommo, driver of the day.
Yeah, it's Charles, isn't it? I think there's. I'm trying to think of like honourable mention wise. There's always people who had a good race typically didn't have a great qualifying, so you kind of have to hold that against them. And it just Charles had a very complete weekend, and there was nothing more really he could have realistically done. Maybe honourable mention to Ocon. I mean, taking those Alpines. Got to say to Gasly as well. I know that it didn't finish great for Gasly, but look at where their two were in Monza, right? We say, Ferrari were strong in Monza, and no surprise they were strong here. Big straight line. Alpine both went out in Q1 in Monza and were nowhere in the race. And, you had Gasly qualifying right up there, Ocon pulling it around. So I don't know, maybe this Alpine power unit isn't quite as bad as we all thought. But yeah, honourable mention to Alpine, I guess more generally, but it's Charles.
Cool. And Chris.
To be honest, I just echo Tommo's sentiments based. Charles is and Mahad's sentiments. Charles is the driver of the weekend, but obviously I was impressed by Ocon and Alpine, and obviously Stroll did a good recovery drive. But then, other than that, also, Charles is driver of the day. He absolutely he made was proud to be a Ferrari fan. Like he was really driving, and the team, everything was really good. So I can't complain.
No, yeah, Charles was definitely one of the drivers of the weekend for sure. But I'm going to go against the grain and say Lance Stroll, because for him to go from where he was like P19 at some points all the way to P5, steady impressive, and he's quicker than Alonso. So yeah, I'm just gonna show him some love in a dedicated end of events. So yeah, let's move on to the Latifi Award. Chris, who's your Latifi Award?
Alonso, because he spanned for no reason. He actually spanned for no reason. I could finally give it to Alonso.
Yeah, no grip, bro. Yeah, no grip. You can't use that excuse.
All other 19 drivers made it through there. He actually caused the chaos. Like he was the cause of the chaos in that first corner. So I can finally give it to him, because to be honest, I don't think there was. I think George-ish, because he had the Bozo moment. But other than them two, there's no really else where I can sit down and go, you were driving really poor, or like you fell short of the standards we expect from you.
Cool. Tommo, Latifi Award.
Sorry, Mahad, but it's got to be Lando for me. I mean, he dropped it. Yes. Did he bottom out here, hit a bump, whatever? 19 other cars went through that section and didn't. Look, I don't know. Maybe there was. I think there's a certain conversation going on. Understandably, where it was cold tires in those conditions. Was he unlucky? Perhaps somewhat, but at the same time, he did. He's in control of the car and lost it. That line obviously wasn't the line to take. Maybe he took a bit too much. I don't know, on the inside. Either way, that McLaren didn't react well to him driving it where he drove it, and he hit the wall and ended his race. And obviously also, qualifying was a write-off. So, yeah, it's Lando.
Mahad, Latifi Award.
I'm not actually giving this much thought, to be fair. Let me just think. I'm giving it to George.
Fair.
That was quick.
I was just thinking, like, because it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to just turn into someone like that. And I think, yeah. And do you know what it is as well? Yeah. If you didn't see him, that shit driving, because you didn't check your mirrors, and you should expect Max Verstappen that's right behind you, like even like a couple tenths behind you, that he's going to go for the lunge. If you did see him and you turned into him, you ruined your own race. What's the point? You could have maybe got a podium out of this. You maybe could have been up with the front runners. So either way, it's just shit driving. So there we go.
Yeah, to his words, he said it himself. He was like, "It's my fault. It's bad driving." I think he didn't expect Max to make the move there, because he was like, "If you make the move there, I can just cut you back." But even then, it's still like you got to be aware of these situations and not just do the Lance Stroll, just turn in and see what happens.
Yeah, true. I'm gonna give it to Logan Sargent because he messed up my predictions today. So yeah, you can definitely
Can't do
hold
that.
Yeah, they can.
Logan,
I have faith.
Logan did something in quali, man. He did something.
And what did
man.
you do today? There you go.
I don't know.
What P16? Hey, scary hours.
One thing I'll tell you now, Logan's not slowing it. I know he gets a bad rap. I don't think he's slow.
He's a bit
I think he's error prone and stuff like that, but that's a rookie. What do you expect? I'll let him do that, but I don't think he's like a Latifi. He's not like slow.
He's having a Sonoda-esque rookie season, I think. Similar to Yuki. I think Yuki delivered a really good Abu Dhabi, so maybe Logan will as well.
And this is a symbol of stop putting F2 guys that are not ready in F1. You didn't even let Logan cook in F2. You just put him straight in F1. Like you didn't even let Yuki cook in F2. You just let them marinate and sit there. Let them go through the situations.
To be fair, Yuki and Logan's situations in F2 were different. Yuki, at the end of that season, he was cooking. So it was one where it was just like they just promoted him because he was doing really well, and it was like a thing of we keep him there for another season. He's just going to win the championship, so we just move him up. With Logan, there was no one else who was willing to be in the seat. It was like they wanted De Vries, he went to AlphaTauri. They wanted Piastri, he's at McLaren, and then they weren't willing to wait for the Mick and Haas situation to play out. They were like, F it, we'll give it Logan because he was doing well in F2 at the time. So it was kind of thing of we're gonna prep him and just roll the dice on him and make our academy look useful. So that's why he's kind of been thrown into the seat instead of, given an extra year of maturing in F2, which is why they've been so patient this season.
Makes sense. Yeah, I hear that. But yeah, that's all for today. If you did get this far, please remember to, of course, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And also to follow us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok under Pitstop Fracas as well. So, of course, Tommo, thank you for coming on. Let the people know where you can find your content if they're not already aware.
Of course. No, thanks for having me, boys. Tommo on YouTube or the Tommo's Race Chinwag on all good audio platforms. That's my little live stream that becomes a podcast that I like to do. So yeah, thanks, boys, for having me. That was fun. We shouldn't leave it 2 years again. We should definitely make this a more regular thing because it's good fun chatting all things. And now you know what? I feel like I should be really tired, but I feel all right. But I think I might just collapse as soon as we finish. We'll see.
Call second wind.
Yeah, exactly. Late second wind. I'm just looking at the Palace stuff to see if anything's come back online. It hasn't, so sad.
Hey, real priorities, yeah. Right, okay then. And we'll see you guys at Abu Dhabi next weekend. Peace.